I've talked about game design documents a lot in my past videos, but now finally I'm going to do a video on how to make a game design document and how I like to make game design documents. In my opinion, the game design document is a tool that helps you make better games. It helps you take an idea, get it out of your head, get it on paper, get your thoughts down, explore where you don't understand that idea very well yet, and eventually progresses it to a finished game. Before we get started talking about game design documents though, let's go over some guiding principles that will help you write better game design documents that better serve you in the future. Number one is write those documents as if you're talking to another person. Even if you don't share that document with someone else, the other person you're writing it for is yourself in the future, because you're going to forget what you had in mind at the time. You're going to be in a different state of mind. You're going to think different things. So you want to write that so that future you can understand it better. Make sure you keep these documents short. Don't go write an 80-page tome. Back in the day when people wrote design documents for games and all kinds of other things, they would write these massive documents and try to just execute to the letter everything in that document. By and large, that method of project planning had a lot of problems. People navigated away from that. I think games should navigate away from that to be more flexible in different things that can come up during development. So keep that game design document short. Right now, you're just documenting an idea anyway, so there's no need to go further. Finally, we will talk about a template that I have a bit later in the video. I'll go through that and explain it to you all. About a year ago, I got the initial template from Marnix over at Bite Me Games, who, from what I remember, got it from someone else, as everyone does, and I adapted it a little bit to my workflow and to things that I thought would work better for a game design document. So hopefully you all enjoy this, hopefully it works for you as well, and feel free to adapt the template to your needs. Before we jump into that template though, what is the purpose of a game design document to begin with? And what is specifically the purpose of this small game design document that we're going to talk about today? That is to get an idea out of your head onto paper and let you explore that idea. It's going to help you think through the idea about the game before you go to build it, before you go to make a prototype out of it, to see if it's something that you think you should pursue anyway, because you may find in writing this that you don't think you should pursue it, and that's totally fine. It's part of the process. Just move on. Writing all this down in the game design document helps free up your brain to think about other things. You don't have to remember everything at the same time, and it can really just help you focus on other tasks. Focus is really important. So what is this small game design document going to have in it? It's going to cover all of the broad areas of making that game and turning it from your idea into a reality. Now, it's not going to go in depth on each of those. We, again, want to keep this document small. And I emphasize that a lot because you can be really tempted, at least I'm really tempted, when I start writing something, I can keep going and going and going, and eventually I've created this massive thing. Don't do that. This game design document should include any kind of motivational art. These are going to be anything from concept sketches, screenshots, models that you've done, anything that helps you get that idea across to future you or anyone else that reads it. How are you going to market that game? How are you going to get it in front of other people? I'm assuming you want to sell this game. Even if you're making it as a hobby, maybe you want to make some extra money on the side. Cool. How are you going to do that? Let's talk about that up front. Let's think about that up front in this game design document before we go and start making that game. All right, enough theory. I promised you a template. Now we're going to get into that template. I'm going to go through each of these sections, talk you through them, talk about what I think they mean and how I think you should use them. You'll notice first up on my template is the name. Name the game. Come up with some name for it. I mentioned in my other video about naming your game that I always come up with these code names for games. And the reason I do that is because I find that if it has a name, I can connect better with it as an author, and I can write more content about it. You'll also notice here in this header, I have several other attributes like the platform, the target price, the playtime, the general audience, and the age rating. Two things I want to point out that may be a little counterintuitive on here. I do have an age rating. I'm not saying go get an age rating for this game that doesn't exist. You actually don't have to for most jurisdictions anyway. In the US at least, we have everyone, teen, mature, and then 18 plus. And it just gives you a category for who might your target audience be. So if you're making a game that's for everyone, for like kids mostly, you wouldn't include blood spray all over the place and body parts flying. Like that wouldn't fit with that category of game. So thinking about it in terms of the rating is more of a way for you to frame where should this game go, how should this game be put together, than it is the actual rating for the game. Next one I'm going to call out in this section is that planned release date. Pick a date, like an actual date. Don't pick a week, don't pick a month. This is just to encourage you to get that date in mind. You don't have to stick to it. You're not even sure you're going to make this game yet. Picking a date helps you better think about the game and helps you think about the time frame. than saying a month or a week. Getting into the details of the template here, the pitch, this is what you're going to say anytime someone asks you, hey, what are you working on? You see someone in the elevator, the stereotypical elevator pitch, which I don't know that many people really talk in elevators anymore, but these are the 2 or 3 sentences you can say to give that other person an idea of what this game is about. Less than 30 seconds. It's actually kind of hard to write these things, so do spend a little bit of time on this. It may only be 2 sentences, but it might actually take you longer to write a good pitch, and it often does take longer to write a good pitch than it does writing out the core game loop or writing a little bit of the story for the game. It's really hard to say less. Next section in here, you'll see unique selling points. People also call these unique value propositions and several other terms. Don't get too caught up on the word unique if you're a mathematician or something like that. It's not universally unique. This just means, how is this game positioned against other games in its market to sell? These should be fairly direct statements directed toward players. They're not directed toward you. They're directed toward people who might buy your game. And you're talking to them about why your game is good, why it's positioned better than competitors in the genre. So more on the business front of the game here, marketing strategy. This is going to be how you're going to get that game and take it to the market. You're going to take it to market. You're going to show it off to people. What are you going to say? Where is that market? A lot of times for Steam games, that's content creators. You can ask content creators to make content about your game. This is a good time to go and identify a few creators ahead of time and note them down here just so that you have them in mind for later when you come back to the game and you look at it. So either directly or indirectly, you're going to talk about your unique value propositions through your marketing strategy to potential buyers of your game. Finally, we're getting into making the game and not talking about business for it. Next section, core mechanics. These are the core mechanics that put together your game loop. In this section, you're going to list out 4 or 5 mechanics that create your game. These are the core mechanics of your game. Not everything that may exist. If you want to go add fishing for some reason, then that's probably not a core mechanic unless you're building a fishing game. This is your place to write down those mechanics, and you may find that it's kind of hard to do that based on your idea. That's totally cool because you probably didn't understand enough about the idea at that point in time. So when you first have that idea, you think you're really clear on it, and then you go to write it down and you find out, oh wait, I don't know about that. I don't know how this is going to work together. I don't know how that level is going to be there. This is designed to help you think through that a little bit in advance and get to something that would at least be a starting point. Next section in here, player objectives. These are the things that the player is going to do from their point of view in your game over and over and over again. It's also known as your core game loop. Those mechanics you just wrote down are what's going to implement this game loop. This is what players want to repeat over and over and over again in that game. Then we go on to the story of the game. This isn't the place where you write a 1,000-page narrative. You might write a paragraph or less that talks about the story of your game. If it's a narrative-based game, it's a synopsis of your story. If it's a non-narrative game, you might write a little story about what the player's doing or what they're experiencing, what they see in the world, and this is to help you understand and get back in that concept later. Moving on here, concept art. This is anything that just communicates the concept of your game. It can be a photo that you have. It can be a picture that you drew. It could be something else in real life that you've seen. Anything that gets that concept together, and it may not be a scene, it may be a weapon, it may be a landscape, it may be a shiny rock or something. I don't know, maybe you're making a game about mining. Often in here, I like to include an example of a UI. So I'll pick a UI from another game that I think could fit the game that I'm working on, include that as concept art, because it helps me understand, oh, what is this going to play like? You can tell that a lot from the way the UI is designed. And finally, reference games. This is something I borrowed from Chris Zukowski in his How to Make a Game blog, and that is to choose 3 current reference games that your game is similar to. And these would be kind of your competitors. They've already launched. You want to pick games that are fairly popular, because picking an unpopular game as a reference game, it wasn't received well. You don't know why. You didn't make it. You didn't do the analysis necessarily. Use one that was received well. Talk about why it worked well. Talk about what you think you could do differently than this game. These are going to be useful for you later on, especially if you're going towards Steam or any other marketplace, because that helps you position your game within the market. And that's it. We've gone through the entire template. So that is what I use when I write game design documents for ideas. I do later go and write additional documents sometimes to design class structure or design building types or levels, but this is kind of the launch pad that I link back to from everything. I'll in some way put a link to that down in the description of the video so that you can download it. You don't have to copy it from just hitting pause. For now, I hope the video has been useful for you. I hope you like the template and you're able to get some value out of it. If you like this kind of content, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe buttons down at the bottom of the page here, and I'll see you next time.